I think that this is something that you guys could easily um, just if I think this is something that could easily suit your needs. Um, and then you would only have to, this is a strategy that would allow you to just maintain the one spreadsheet and not have to do more than one. Um, what do you guys think of of how we did this? Um, I wonder if is Shauna here? Since yeah,
Yes, I'm
Shauna's
here.
here.
I love it, love it, love it.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
so um, yeah,
I like
that's
how it
definite.
does the names too, Hal. It
Pardon me?
tells you the exact names.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't have to cut and paste names into a list. It just did it for you. Um, I did another report since I was playing around with it. I spent yesterday play all day yesterday playing around with this spreadsheet. It was kind of fun. I got very distracted. And I what I did is I noticed on Holtz's um, on her table that there's that LO3 standard. One, two, three, four different times. So it looks like she reviewed that standard and did a CFA four different times on that one standard. So I wanted to know, well, what was going on? So I created this report here. And it, here's these four columns are the four different times that she tested the standard and what everybody in the class got. And then I did a column with the best, the average, the change, and another column. I don't remember what this one is. But I'll just show you real quick. I'm going to recreate this report and I'll show you how easy it is to do. So I've got a brand new sheet and I'm going to go to data pivot table and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to say existing sheet because I just created it. I don't need to create a new one. So my data range, I'm going to click on these. I need to highlight it. There's this grid square next on this data range line. And it, what that is it's a shortcut so that you don't have to manually type in the fields and the numbers. You can just click on that grid and it's going to ask you to select it. So I'm going to go over to Holtz's spreadsheet and I'm just going to select all of the data in the table. Oh, I don't want that. I don't want that. The I want to start with line 2. That's partly why I moved the date up to be the first line. I'm just going to select line 2 that has all those standards, all the students, and all those the test scores. And I'm not going to select the calculations under here. And then I'm going to say OK. So it's put all the coding information in here for my data range. And then this one is where do you want this pivot table to be put at? I'll go back to my new sheet, click in this square. I want you to start right there and say okay. So I've got, these are the parameters that the pivot table needs. So then I just say create. And it's got a blank pivot table. And I'm going to go to rows. What data do I want in my rows? And I'm just going to click on add and select students. So it's going to put in all the student names like that. So I want all the student names. And then I need some values in here. And I'm just going to pick that standard. She tested on it 4 times. So I'm going to I'm just going to add each one. Let's see, that was LO3. And then 4th one right there. Okay, so I've got, just like that, I've got a separate sheet with all of the students and the scores that they got. I'm going to remove this checkbox because we don't need the grand total. But I've got all the students and exactly what they got on that one specific standard.
On the 3rd and 4th one, we probably want to change it from a count though to a sum. That way it's not just showing
Oh,
a 1 or a
yes.
0.
Thank you. Thank you. So count means, so what he was talking about there, let me talk about this, is I used this add button to add all 4 of the testing columns. And he noticed that the first 2 were summarized by sum, but the last 2 were not sum. And sum just means if it's not actually summing it. For me it's kind of an odd thing to put sum in there because it's not adding up the scores. What it means is just bring the data straight over. Whatever's in the cell, just bring it straight over. That's what in this case, that's what sum means. So I've got the students and I've got their test, and I'm going to start looking at this and saying, all right, well, the first thing I notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we got a lot of zeros. And so what I'm going to do is just highlight this cell range. I'm done with the pivot table, by the way. I'm just going to analyze what's going on here. And so I'm going to sum the whole range, and I'm going to set up a conditional formatting. And I'm going to say if the cell is equal to 0, make it gray. Okay, so now I can see just at a glance, yeah. So part of the reason why she may have retaught this standard was because it looks like there was a lot of absences, people that should have been there that for the CFA that weren't there. So we don't know how well they did. And if they weren't there for the CFA, if she covered the standard on the same day she did the CFA, they weren't there to go over the standard there again. So that might be something. Another thing I noticed looking at this is we got a lot of numbers. Aileen tested at 3 the first time she went over the standard, but 2 the last time she went over the standard. And I noticed that there's quite a few students that, the first time they did better than the last time. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to label this column best. And since I like to do it pretty, let's see, what color is that? It's the 3rd one in. I'm going to do the text white and bold so it matches. And I'm going to use a function that finds the highest number, and it's called max. So I'm going to go in and just do max parentheses and then drag it over the cells I want it to search for and then hit enter. And it just finishes off it just finishes off the function for me. And it finds the best number. That's pretty obvious. It's 3. So now I can just drag that down, and now it's finding the best number for all the students. And this is actually this is interesting because all of the students got at least a 3 at one time or other over these four different periods. That's interesting. So, you know, if I don't know, um, um, maybe you guys can tell me, would you just stop there? Well, they got a 3, it's okay. Or would you say, all right, I don't know that I'm going to stop there. Miss Brown, what do you say? Would you just call that good? They got it at least one time, or would you want to find out some more?
We usually we tell them that we give them their best score. So we would
Okay.
take probably that column and go with that for their score.
Okay. Okay. Well, when I was playing around with it yesterday, I was like, I kind of want to know what the difference is. And I'm just going to call this diff. So in this case, I'm going beyond what you guys would you since that would be sufficient. But I want to know, all right, what did it change? So the last time they tested on it is in this column minus the first time they tested on it. Oops, I grabbed it. And then that's going to show me the difference. And there's a lot of them that, it went down. And so I'm going to go to some conditional formatting. Where is it? Conditional formatting. And I'm going to say is less than 0. Make it reddish. So I got several students that did that same thing. So that's.
Al, that would be great data before you did like let's say a benchmark test or when you're reviewing for AZ Merit. That information is very helpful.
Yeah, okay. Because you would definitely want to say, okay, this is a standard that I need to review right before we do a benchmark. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So, that's just, and another thing I want to do is I want to highlight all these squares because I love to do this. And I'm just highlighting all the squares with my numbers in it. And I went to the paint tool and selected alternate formatting, and I'm going to pick the green. No, that clashes with the. I'm just going to pick the blue, but I'm going to say there's no header. It's assuming that this first line is a header. I'm just going to uncheck that and say done. And now I got alternating colors. Oh, you know what I'm going to do is include that on the students. So I'm going to go back to alternating colors and remove the alternating colors. And then let's try that again with all the students. Blue, no header, done. So there we go. I now have, I just love alternating colors because when you're going, you know, when I'm trying to say, okay, who is this -3? And I almost have to sometimes put my hand up to the screen to make sure I go across to the right line. And those alternating colors really help out with that.